Gaurav Bakshi, for somebody who wrapped up his life and moved bag and baggage to Goa, you've known the city quite close up front. And I want to ask you, because every, once in a way, away from the beautiful, stunning beaches, the swaying palms, is this whole hedonistic lifestyle of Goa. At one point of time, the state wore it on its sleeve and then it went a little underground. But having said that, it's very much right there in your face. Do you see that change right now, or do you think that this is just a one-off incident and the rot runs way too deep?
Preeti, thank you. Your voice is not very audible, but I think I got the gist of it. If it could be increased a bit, would be nice. This is absolutely not a one-time incident. A task force to deal with drugs was supposed to be set up 5 years ago by then CM Parikar. It never saw the light of day. And the DGP yesterday is announcing that he is contemplating setting up another task force. 100 kgs of drugs has been found in the first 7 months of this year. That's not a joke. The DGP admits that the entry points largely is an airport where nothing has been caught till now. This shows the seriousness or the lack of it and the intent behind the government. If you know the entry points, you know where the drug is being channeled through, where the peddlers are, and they know it, you just have to go find them and stop this and take some strong action. But there's lethargy. The intent of the government is very, very clearly not in line. This is a sporadic ad hoc action for, at best, some optics. And this is the bringing down of Curlie's or the demolition order was not because of the government. It was because a civil society individual took Curlie's to court. And this has been a many years of fight, an outcome that has led to this after a few years. So none of this is pointing to an action by the government in any way. Unfortunately, the citizens at large believe it is in fact the government which is in hands and gloves with this massive drug underbelly of Goa. That's the problem. It's those in power are the ones behind it. And how can we expect them to do anything about it?
Gaurav, you're a very active part of the civil society where Goa is concerned. You moved to that state for the want of a better life. I want to ask you, since how long have you been in Goa and how have you seen the state change?
Been here for over 5 years now, Preeti. The beauty of Goa is it's a heartbreaking experience to see what's happening around. I think it's an incredibly beautiful state that could be an exceptional place on the planet, literally, akin to a Kashmir or a Ladakh, etc. What we are seeing instead is government-led abuse of the law when it comes to land conversions, when it comes to destruction of our ecology, in terms of kazans, in terms of mangroves, NDZ violations, and no development zone violations on the coastline. It's rampant. It is the government that brought in 16B, which led to massive ad hoc land conversion, which is one of the main causes of destruction of the landscapes of Goa, enacted by the BJP government. And so, I mean, what is the government talking about? So I'm sorry to go on a bit of a rant there, but essentially to your question, this destruction on one hand, very, very poor infrastructure development on the other hand, which has led to downslide of most industries, including the most valuable one of tourism. Most tourism has shifted out of Goa even before the pandemic. It was down 50% in the year, 2 years prior. IT industry, startup industry are suffering big time. There's no stops. Nothing's been essentially done for them. We are on various forums and everybody complains about it. Blatantly, industry leaders on media in Goa publicly constantly talk about how they're extremely unhappy with the government. So job market is down, industries are not being supported, the hospitality sector is down, infrastructure in terms of roads are terrible. This is the state of Goa that we see.
I with the person who is talking right now, because I think he has very limited knowledge of what he is talking. I have been born and brought up, and Goa was once a beautiful place, unless until the time people like him have exploded in the scene here. In fact, the local people who were here, they are very calm, docile, they are very peaceful, God-loving, and in fact, the local populace, you will find not all those who commit this type of crimes.
But Mr. Riker, Mr. Riker, I want to ask you a question, and I will go to the Congress spokesperson as well. To blame the likes of Gaurav because he's an outsider to come into Goa and cause what you're witnessing right now. It'll be a bit rich, sir. It will be a bit rich. You might have angst about, you might have angst, hear the question now. You might have angst about those who've come from the outside and settled in Goa. You know, that's separate. But that aside, most of the corruption, sir, most of the drug carteling is your very own. They are the locals who are hand, glove and neck deep in it. Mr. Riker.
Who has, initiated this process? I will ask you one question. Who has initiated these processes? Is it the locals who have initiated? Or is it the people, the high-end people who come from the north and who come from other areas? They try to put... See, just blaming the government is one part of it. Say something. One minute.
Let him finish.
Yes. I just finish within 1 minute. And don't tell that the industry is bad and all that. Even during the pandemic, our industry worked here. We manufactured 12% of the total pharma production in the country. We manufacture 80% of the construction machinery that happens in the country. We manufacture so many things, which are like codicil vessels, which are nowhere in the country. See, don't blame Goa for just the sake of it or just to get a cheap publicity or for a small price.
Sir, he's not blaming Goa. The fact is you're blaming him. That's the point. And let me come to the moot point of it all. If you can't blame the North Indians, I'm sorry, Mr. Riker, you cannot blame the North Indians for bringing in a drug culture to Goa. It's very much a part and parcel of what the locals of Goa have actually festered, and right now it's reaching fruition.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. Goa was a pretty peaceful climate until and unless 1969 when Woodstock happened and the hippies started coming in Goa.
Okay.
From that perspective, from that time onwards, Goa has become on the tourism map. Prior to that, even the government did nothing to promote the tourism at that time. Let me be very clear about it. It started because, there were Hollywood movies which portrayed Goa in a different style and different atmosphere. And that is why the right type of people did not come here. Our entire...
Sir, let's not get into that. The locals of Goa have made a fair amount of money. You've exploited whatever came your way as well. I'm sorry, you can't have it both ways. You can't blame the tourists and then make money off the tourists.